And joining us now to discuss the capture of a suspect in the killing of United Health executive Thompson is Greg Shaffer, retired FBI agent. Greg, as always, thank you very much for coming on. To start off here, give us your reaction to how the authorities responded to the crime, from the killing to the arrest of the suspect.
Yeah, this is just good gumshoe police investigation work. I mean, the NYPD, I tip my hat to them. They did a great job, and developing lead after lead after lead. They used really good technology to increase the chances of finding this guy. They did reviewing of witnesses at the hostel and throughout the city. Again, this is just great police work. This is how it's done. This is how a murder investigation is done. You find that one nugget. You follow it, that leads to another nugget of information and intelligence. You follow that, and you just keep following those leads. And once they released a photograph of the individual, it really was just a question of time when they're going to capture an individual. So, I tip my hat again to the police, both in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and in New York Police Department, especially, just doing some great investigative work.
And just going into a bit more detail here, the authorities say they discovered a ghost gun and suppressor on the suspect, both potentially 3D printed. So if the facts bear this out and he did use these items to kill the CEO, in your opinion, how sophisticated do you think the suspect's planning was?
Well, initially they were thinking that this was a professional assassination, but obviously that is not being seen here. The number of mistakes that this individual made in his escape out of New York City, having all those pictures taken of him, flirting with the individual at the hostel, and then doing things like leaving a backpack where it can be found, or having with him the gun, the suppressor, and the identification that he used at the hostel, the fake driver's license, his manifesto, having that on him at the time of arrest. Just reeks of amateurish work. If he was a true professional, he would have definitely lost all those things, destroyed them, put them where nobody could have ever found them, and then escaped town. But the fact that he had all that information and all those pieces of equipment and firearms with him just shows that this person was not a professional. But it does beg to show that, why did he keep them? That remains to be seen. Did he have additional targets that he was targeting? Did he need a weapon for more murders? We don't know that, but the investigation may shed some light on that.
So earlier you said law enforcement did a really great job here. Would you say this was a relatively quick capture of the suspect, or longer than normal?
With him, getting out of town and everything else, this is actually, I think, a very quick investigation. Again, they got a lot of information, a lot of leads that they were able to follow up on quickly. They were able to determine that he did leave the city of New York, so that helped expand the search. And then when they released the photograph of him, nationwide with the help of the media and with the help of other police departments, again, it was only a question of time. But you look at this, investigation from afar, it actually moved very quickly.
So the suspect did leave behind some critical evidence. Broadly speaking, in your experience, do even the most carefully planned crimes often involve critical mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we catch them. There's always that that DNA fiber left behind, or a drop of blood left behind. There's always some evidence that people who do this kind of criminal acts and violent acts, they leave behind. There are very few perfect crimes that go unsolved. But again, you have to ask yourself, the initial question, and that is, how did the shooter know that the victim was going to be outside on that sidewalk at that time of day? How did he recognize them? Pictures look like pictures, people look like people, as we say in my business. And for him to be able to recognize the victim, in a fairly dark morning on a street of New York City, and lay in wait for him, that has some questions there that need to be answered. Did he have help? Did he have accomplices? And did he have additional targets in mind?
Also, would you mind commenting on the difficulties that law enforcement face nowadays with the availability of technology like, 3D printed guns and accessories and all this kind of stuff?
Well, as far as tracking weapons, that definitely makes it more difficult, but it's a double-edged sword. Technology also greatly enhanced this investigation for the NYPD. Having all those cameras across, across New York City, I don't know how many tens of thousands of cameras there are, but in an island that's 18 miles long and 2 miles wide, it's pretty much covered, with video surveillance capabilities, whether it's a camera outside of a bodega, whether it's a street camera, or whether it's a bank ATM camera. The city of New York is pretty well covered when it comes to video type surveillance. So, technology definitely can assist and help the bad person wanting to do some crime, but it's also a great tool that law enforcement can use to capture those individuals.
So it was reported that a McDonald's employee actually tipped off the police, which led to the arrest. So how much of a factor did the public play in this? How important would you say is the public's response to a case like this?
Well, once they identified that the shooter got on a bus and left New York City, then it all came down to really the public's assistance. Getting those pictures out. They had several photographs, very good photographs of him. Again, once those photographs were released, I was very confident it was only a matter of time before he was captured. And then that individual in the McDonald's, kudos to him. He did a great job. And most people probably would have just laughed it off and said to themselves, it can't be him. Would never happen here in Altoona, Pennsylvania. But the individual in the McDonald's said, you know what, I'm going to call the police and let them figure it out. So you got to give a lot of credit to that individual for not just waving it off and doing the right thing. But once they knew he left the city, then it was, again, up to the public to identify where he was. Because with those pictures, somebody definitely was able to identify him and knew who he was. It was just a question of time.
All right, Greg, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.